Welcome to open class number 65. Hope you're doing really well. We have 4 messages to go over today. I hope it'll bring a lot of value to the person that sent the message, as well as anyone else tuning in. Of course, as always, nothing is a medical advice here, just general thoughts that I hope will be helpful to again, anyone that tunes in. Just actually a quick announcement before we start going over these questions. Last Friday, I did this drop-in class for members of the Sleep Coach School, our self-coaching program, and our certification program for people who want to become coaches. And actually, someone popped into the class, and I didn't know who it was. I was kind of embarrassed, but it was actually someone who just signed up for the certification program to become a sleep coach. And we had a very nice conversation, and all was well. But after that, we changed that process a little bit to make the onboarding, better, if you will. So anyone out there who is interested in becoming a sleep coach, you can now head over to thesleepcoachschool.com and send a little application. Tell us why you would be interested in that. And then if it seems like you're a good fit, it seems like a good thing for you, we can set up a discovery call and take it from there. So the onboarding process will be nicer. All right, let us jump in here and answer some questions. The first one actually it's more of a success story, really, with a question in the end. This came in via Facebook Messenger, and as there was a question, I asked Shari to send it here so we can answer the question together, but also take a look at some hopeful things that have happened for Shari. Let's read this. Shari sent this message a couple days ago. She said, I originally sent this to Daniel by Facebook Messenger. Dear Daniel, I can't let another day go by without thanking you. Thank you so much, Shari. It really means the world hearing this. It's the, messages like this that is the gas that keeps the tank always full here, really. All right. The day I contacted you, I binged a ton of your podcasts and bought your book, but it was only 3 chapters in by bedtime. That evening, I sat there thinking, okay, so do I jump off the cliff and try to sleep without meds? So I calculated what my bedtime would be based on 17 hours after my wake time that morning, and I decided to read your book until I got sleepy, went into bed that night with no meds, and behold, I fell asleep just as quickly as I normally would have with the meds. Ready for this? I slept all night the first night I tried this method and woke near 6 a.m. It was like I was on cloud 9 all day, positively giddy. Each night since I've slept, I had a gas problem and I didn't know it. A few of the nights I woke up. One night I got up and hung out on the sofa reading, no big deal. 2 nights I woke up and felt tired, resisted the urge, it is strong, to look at the clock. My normal thoughts about looking at the clock would have been, well, what time did I make it to tonight? Then I would start calculating, grading how long I slept, etc. Read your chapter on that and kept telling myself that nobody ever got thankful for waking at 2:27. And since my alarm has not gone off, it isn't 6:25, so I can lay here longer if I like. I've gone back to sleep now twice using this thought process. Do you have any information on sleep and ADHD? If it's in the book, I'll get there, reading, highlighting, and digesting it slowly. A million thanks to you. This is wonderful, Shari. I'm super, super glad to be reading this. And that's really the predominant emotion right now. So just happy reading these lines. And for those of you who have not read Set It and Forget It, actually all the information that's in the book is here for free on the channel. So no need to buy it. You can just peruse the videos here and it's all here. But, Shari says, I realized I had a gas problem. What does she mean by that? Well, when sleep does not happen, it is either because you are not sleepy or you are anxious, hyper-aroused, worried, stressed, something like that. That's keeping sleep from happening. And what Shari did was she was like, okay, I think I need about 7 hours of sleep. So that means I need like 17 hours of wakefulness before I am ready for sleep. So she calculates 17 hours after she gets up. That would be about this time. And she went to bed at that time. I think that makes a ton of sense. I think sometimes it truly is a gas problem, maybe Shari, maybe you've been like sleeping little at night and catching up during the day, sleeping here and there, taking naps, trying to catch sleep, and then you're not sleepy at bedtime. It doesn't happen. But most of the time, insomnia is more of a break problem, that there's a lot of thoughts that are keeping it from happening. And I think what you're doing is fantastic, Shari. I would just keep doing what you're doing. It sounds great. But the only kind of like little thing that's to keep in mind when you think that I had a gas problem is that, yeah, it is good to kind of get up about the same time every morning. And, if you're not sleepy, you will not sleep. So it's, you have to, allow your body a certain amount of hours before you can expect sleep to happen. But if someone really goes into like, I need more gas, I need to stay up longer so I can sleep, then you see this becomes an anxiety. You get kind of a break problem by that. So I think for you, Shari, or anywhere else hearing this, whenever you're spending about, let's say, 7 hours, something like that in bed, and you're still not sleeping, then it's not a gas problem. That is something else. But in your case, Shari, seems like this is fantastic. And as for the question, no, there's really nothing in the book about sleep and ADHD. And I would say this, that there are innumerable amount of things that does have some impact on your sleep. If you have ADHD, maybe you have autism, spectrum disease disorder, or maybe you have arthritis, maybe you have an allergy to this, maybe this and that. All those things can have some impact when it comes to sleep, but they will not cause insomnia, and no matter what you have, you don't need to struggle with sleep. If you have, for example, a lot of pain, kind of arthritis or something like that, that will have some impact on your sleep, but it does not need to become I'm awake for hours, I can't figure out what's going on, I can't fall asleep, I'm trying this, I'm trying that. Nobody needs to struggle with sleep. So that's kind of like really the only thing I want to add there, is that if you have ADHD, then that may have some impact on your sleep. Maybe you're sort of like an active person, and maybe you sleep a little bit less than other people, perhaps. But again, there needs to be no struggle. So I think of it as a circumstance that you don't really need to ponder much more. Okay. Shari, thanks so much for sharing it. It was super nice reading your message. Thanks for buying the book, and so glad it was helpful again. Okay. Now, this is from Sierra. Sierra is actually my BedTyme client who graduated not long ago and then had a little bit of a speed bump here. Let's read this. Hey, Coach Daniel. Sierra here. I sent an email, but not sure if it went through. I'm having a really Hypnic jerky night tonight. Usually they don't bother me, and I hardly have jerks at all, ever. But for some reason tonight, and now more in the morning, they're more prominent than ever. It's not even like I'm not sleepy. I am sleepy. I just fell asleep for what I think was 2 hours, until it seems like my brain realized that I was asleep and yanked me back awake again. I was dreaming and everything, not sure what's going on. I don't even feel that hyper-aroused, although I know that's always the culprit. I know I should just ignore them, but they are annoying when I'm just falling asleep, and they hit over and over again tonight. Not sure what I did differently, in which my brain is now perceiving the transition to sleep as something to be afraid of, or why tonight my jerks are on 100, but I'm actually sleepy. I keep telling my brain, it's okay, this is not a threat, but it's not listening to me. One extremely frustrating night. I know you'll have a great info and pointers, so thanks in advance. Yep, I definitely have some thoughts here, Sierra. And firstly, I want to say that I can tell that you've learned a lot, maybe from BedTyme, maybe from the channel here, but that puts you in a very good position. You're already I was so glad to read this. I know what's going on, but I know hyperarousal is always the culprit, and it really is. For anyone out there, when you're experiencing things that seem bizarre, like these hypnic jerks, or becoming like you're about to fall asleep and you become aware of falling asleep, or like you have these kind of light bulb awakenings when you just wake up suddenly, completely awake out of nowhere, or you sleep very little and you have all this energy during the day, or sleep kind of fast forwards, so you time travel. All those things are related to hyperarousal, which is this kind of heightened emotional state. Now, why? Oftentimes it is not clear why you're hyperaroused. It's very common actually to describe what Sarah is describing here, that I feel sleepy and I don't think I'm particularly anxious. It's not obvious to me that I am, but these things are signs of hyperarousal, and it can be sneaky. You can have this sneaky hyperarousal that you're not even aware of. And now here's the thing. I think probably the most important here that I think we're gonna probably come back to later on here is, hyperarousal is an emotional state, but emotions really come from thoughts. Thoughts produce our emotions. So there are some thoughts that are probably not obvious that cause hyperarousal, and that hyperarousal then triggers these like jerks, sudden awakenings, etc. So there are two ways to address thoughts that are causing us to have some discomfort, and one is the dismissal. That's basically when you, let's say you, like Sierra, you had some trouble sleeping, you went through the program, you're doing better, but then these things happen again. Then I think that, to be honest with you, the first and most practical thing is to kind of like ignore it and be like, I know what's going on with this, and just go away. This is fine. This is nothing to worry about. And oftentimes that's all you need. When the worrisome thoughts are not very sticky, you can kind of just dismiss them. Kind of just ignore them, if you will. But sometimes they can become sticky, and I don't know. Like this was a couple of days ago, Sierra. Maybe you're all doing really well. Maybe they're still there. Maybe you still have hypnic jerks. But the teaching point here is that anything you do to sort of like get rid of hyperarousal or make those thoughts go away, or like, that can sometimes make it more sticky, so what do you do in that case? Well, in that case, you sort of have to go in the opposite direction, which is, being willing to experience it. And if we take a look, actually, I think Sierra was kind of like on that track, I think, or maybe not. Well, she said, I keep telling my brain it's okay. This is not a threat, but it's not listening to me. And that's, again, this is, I think, Sarah, you're doing, I think, what's very practical, which is just basically just telling your brain, there's nothing to worry about. It's not a threat. And sometimes that is very helpful, but sometimes it's like, it's not listening to me. It's not getting through, which then you have kind of a almost like an argument. Like the brain is saying like, there is a problem, and you say, there's not a problem. And then the brain can go like, there really is a problem. You don't have a problem. And then it becomes like two people arguing and trying to like overpower the other. And the argument just gets stronger and stronger. So when that happens, then it is best to go the opposite direction, which is to be like, to listen, actually. I would say like the brain is like, Sierra, now you listen. And then you actually listen, which you're like, okay, I'm listening. You're telling me like, if you actually identify the thoughts, you can like listen to the thoughts, like articulate them, write them down. And if the thought is something like, you may not sleep at all for 2 days or whatever, then you imagine that happening, you're willing to listen, and then the brain has nothing to warn you about. If the thoughts are not particularly clear, you can just be willing to experience, what you are experiencing, meaning like, okay, if I have a lot of hypnic jerks, I'm willing to experience that. If I wake up suddenly like very awake and it takes a while to fall back asleep, I'm willing to experience that. I'm willing to experience that. I'm not going to resist that or try to stop it or try to like tell my brain what to do or anything like that. And that is super effective. It's a little harder to do because it's a little scary, but that is the thing. Like when you are willing to experience X has no power over you. When you're willing to experience these hypnic jerks, they have no power over you. So I think that is the most important thing I can share here. So Sierra, let me know how this sounded, and if you have any follow-up questions, please submit another one. And I hope this will be all you need. All right, cool. We have 2 more questions to go over, and I see a couple people are live with us here. If you are tuning in live and have any question, post it as a comment, and I'll answer it right away. Okay, now we have a question from Bibita. Let's read this. Hello, Daniel. I wanted to know if CBTi can be performed when I'm on sleep medication. The medication helps me sleep, but I want to perform CBTi to get rid of insomnia forever. Hence, want to apply CBTi with prescribed medication. How effective would it be? I want to taper off sleep medication, but I'm too anxious to go for CBTi without any sleep aid. Thanks, Bibita. Absolutely. This is a very good question. I think, several people probably have a similar question. So very thankful for it. And I want to share actually something that I learned from, this Martin Reed who told me this, I want to say quite a while ago, maybe 2 years ago or something, like maybe the first time I met him, I think. And he said, CBTi works great if you're on a medication. CBTi works great if you're not on any medication, but it doesn't work well if you're using medications conditionally. Okay, so let's go. What does it mean? Okay, so the problem, so let me put it this way. When you're starting your path towards sleeping well, you basically want to learn, and you want to really limit the factors that you think play a role. The most challenging situation is when you have a client who is on, like, they're on 5 milligrams of this, 2 milligrams of that. They also take some milligrams of this. They take another supplement here and there. They're trying to tweak their diet. They're doing this, they're doing that. They're listening to, they're Googling, they're taking information. There's so many factors that this person is kind of juggling and trying to figure it out. That is a very anxiety producing situation. And it's very difficult to get to a place of good sleep when there are multiple factors that this person is trying to figure out and keep in their mind, et cetera, and analyze, So you really want to have limited to basically as few factors as possible. Like if you can get to a place where the only thing you're doing is learning, and perhaps you're getting up at about the same time every morning, and then you're kind of not spending too much time allotted for sleep and learning and going for that is a very good path. So where I'm going towards here is that it is very good if the medication becomes a non-factor. If you're spending a lot of time thinking about the medication, then it's still a factor, and it's the one thing that you analyze. And the more things you analyze, again, the trickier things become. So how do you make a medication a non-factor? Well, there are two ways. One is you take the same dose, the same time every night, like a robot, without much reflection. You just take it like a robot. And I think it's really, really good if you take it with the same kind of approach that you would take your multivitamins, No, you just take them as prescribed, and you don't reflect more about it. It's just what you do right now. And then you focus on the CBT, right? Then it's a non-factor. And then at a future point, you can decide what you want to do. If you want to continue taking it or not taking it, really doesn't matter as long as you sleep well. I always try to emphasize that, sleep medications have been around for decades, right? And if you look at the literature, my understanding is definitely that they have not been shown to cause any significant health problems. Mostly it's that people just don't like to take them, or that it's, there's side effects, or you just don't like the idea of taking them, which is completely valid reasons to stop. But I always try to emphasize that we have not seen that they're dangerous. And that actually, I think, is really helpful, because when somebody thinks I gotta get off this, this is terrible, this can cause dementia, this can cause this and that, I gotta get off this medication, then you're actually, by pressuring yourself to come off a medication, you're indirectly pressuring yourself to sleep, which always leads to more trouble sleeping. So, the less impact you think the medication has on you, on your sleep in general, the easier your path will be. So again, if you take it like a robot, and you think of it as kind of like a vitamin pill, you don't think it does that much, which it really doesn't. No medications can make you sleep. They can be various levels of sedation, but apart from that, it doesn't really do anything. So again, I hope that answered the question. And I just want to kind of comment on this, maybe sound like semantics a little bit, but whenever your approach is that I'm going to do this program so I can get rid of it, so I can beat this, I can, that kind of combative, if you will, approach is tricky. It's completely understandable, and I think it's always great to have a client who's motivated, but it's good to know that when you think I'm going to win this battle, then you're going to struggle for a little bit more. When you think, okay, I'm going to learn so I can abandon the battle, that's really when you see a lot of good things come your way. Okay, let's see if there's anything more to comment on. I want to taper. I just want to add one last thing, which is about tapering. When you get to that point, when you're like, okay, I think I want to taper off this medication, the most common pitfall I see is that someone says, okay, let me try not to take this medication and see how things go. It's sort of like if you imagine somebody who's smoking and they want to stop smoking, and imagine them telling you, yeah, I'm going to stop. I'm going to see if I can stop smoking, see how I feel. And if it feels good, then I'm going to stop smoking. That tells you like, this person probably won't stop smoking because of course they're not going to feel good. Of course they want to continue smoking, and then they'll go back smoking, right? So when you approach weaning off medications like that, if you're like, I'm going to see how it goes, it typically ends up that you go back taking it because the monitoring, they're like, I wonder how it's going to go. Can I sleep without it? Can I take half? What if I take more tomorrow? What if I go back? What if this, what that? That whole process of like the trial itself often causes some insomnia. So when somebody wants to wean off, I think the best thing to do is like approach it like a decision rather than a trial. That's just a little extra thought there. Cool. Okay. So thanks, Bibita, for this question. And then finally, Sarah. Sarah says, please, can you give me any tips on being less hyper aroused? I have chronic insomnia and I'm not sleeping at all. So desperate. Sorry to hear this, Sarah, but I'm glad you posted this question. And I want to say it's the tricky thing with hyper arousal is that it acts exactly like, like insomnia in itself, meaning the more you don't want to have insomnia, the more you want to like, I gotta sleep, the more trouble you have. The more you're like, I gotta get rid of my hyperarousal, the more hyper aroused you get because of what we talked about earlier in this episode. So as difficult as it is always when you're like more willing to experience something that it becomes better. So specifically when it comes to hyperarousal, I think sometimes maybe identifying the thoughts that are driving the hyperarousal and just taking a few minutes every day to just write them down to show the brain that you're listening, write them down without any like, I think honestly it's better. Some people say write them down and then say, this is the problem, this is what I can do to fix it. I think it's much better not to even think of effort, not even think of problem solving, just like document the thoughts that keep recurring in your mind, just to show the brain that you're willing to listen to them and willing to hear those thoughts. I think that shows the brain again that you're listening. When the brain sees that you're listening, it feels no need to kind of like repeat those thoughts that cause hyperarousal. I think that's a really big one. And the other one is being willing to go there, meaning like if the brain is warning you about something specific, imagine that actually happening. Imagine that, go there in your mind. That really shows the brain that you're listening. I think those are the two most important tips, I think. Okay, cool. So Juan has a question here. Hi, Daniel. I've always recommended you to anybody that's struggling with this condition. I really appreciate that. And I noticed that, there's these kind of like spikes in subscribers, etc. So I'm super appreciative of the help and the support, one. Who's I've 90 says, I got this for 3 months. Sometimes, sorry to hear that, but I'm glad you're here, and I hope you're learning, and I'm sure when you fully understand it and you can kind of abandon the struggle, you'll do really well. What I often when people mention that 3 months, that's often, and I don't know if that's the case for you, who's I've 93, but 3 months is often mentioned as like, oh no, now it is chronic, because like traditionally, like insomnia is labeled as chronic after 3 months, which is, I think, very, very problematic. I don't know who decided that. And I think whenever there's a time frame, like if you have this much, then it's called that leads you into like monitoring how long you've had it, paying more attention to it, which is problematic. But most problematic at all with that is the word chronic, I think. If you look up the word chronic, it says basically something that doesn't resolve, something you always have, which is super unhelpful. Why would you call something chronic that in no way needs to be chronic? It's just a simple matter of, I say simple, maybe I shouldn't say that word, but it's really, if you just understand what's going on and you sort of like take steps away from the struggle. It does not need to be chronic at all. It's just very unfortunate that that word is used. So anyway, I went a little bit on tangent there perhaps, but Who's Life 93, I hope that made sense and brought at least some value there. Cool. Well, I think we will call it a day there here. And actually for Sarah and anyone else tuning in, I just recorded an Insomnia Insight episode, which talks about how thoughts and emotions really are fleeting at baseline. Even hyperarousal, anxiety, those are fleeting at baseline. It is us thinking about our thoughts and trying to get away from it. That makes them sticky. So I'm gonna what am I calling this one? I think I'm calling it like how to not obsess or something like that. But check out that one. I think that will be helpful. So before I leave you, I will say that anyone that finds everything you need on this channel, super glad. And if you do want some more coaching, then check out BedTyme on the App Store. I coach there. I think it's a great program. It's actually a new curriculum now. I think it's really helpful. And we have our video-based program as well on our website, so you can check that out as well. You're super welcome for both of them. So with that said, again, I'll leave you there and see you soon. Until then, take it easy.